Guys, I started a whole firestorm on Facebook today, and I was not even trying to. I am absolutely completely fine with being controversial, but that wasn't my intention at all. And somehow I managed to do it today. So let's talk about why everybody is up in arms when I just simply said, hot take, I think we should all be niching down. As of right now, there's literally over 100 comments, 100 reactions, and some pretty heated positions that are coming up as people are still conversating on this some 14 15 hours later. I have been known to start a good conversation in a Facebook group, guys, but I was not anticipating that this would be so controversial. But apparently it struck a chord with lots of people. So let's start by clarifying what I actually mean by a niche. So basically, in any industry, your niche is a very small or kind of subset or focus group within a larger category. So when we're thinking about mental health practices, particularly private practices, is what I was talking about. This might be by diagnosis, it might be by demographics or psychographics, or a combination of those things. But really, it's a category of people that you are saying, I am choosing to work with this group of people. I am the best person, like this is the best group for me to work with, and I'm a good person that can provide high quality and ethically relevant care to this group of people. And so I didn't think it would be controversial to think that, hey, maybe we really should be thinking about how we can specialize or niche down, or at least give our focus and attention to one particular subsect of the population. But the feedback was swift and it was harsh. And a lot of people were actually angry and defensive, saying that they were trained to be a generalist, that we have generalists in other areas of like medical care, and that we should not be trying to limit or restrict what other people choose to do as adults in private practice. And I totally understand that perspective, but here's the perspective that I wanted to share. First and foremost, in all of medical care, we recognize that there's more value in understanding things with depth and not necessarily width. And when you think about like medical doctors, for example, yes, we do have a primary care physician, or maybe like a homeopathic doctor, or a doctor of osteopathy, where they have a general knowledge about a lot of things. But in even those general situations, they're going to refer you to people who can assist you with these other specialty areas, right? Because they know that they cannot keep up on all of the latest research, on all of the latest trends, on all of the latest treatment modalities, because it's just too overwhelming. So they know a little bit about a lot of things, and they know about a few things that are most commonly experienced by their general population. That's why we have, primary care physicians for children and primary care physicians for adults. And we have people that cover all the subspecialties. So it's not really that uncommon. But in the mental health space, there's a lot of resistance to this concept. And I kind of understand it in some ways, but in others, not so much. So here was my suggestion, particularly if you're a new therapist. I want you thinking about niching down sooner rather than later, because I want you to look at those associate license years as your residency, where you're really getting to establish an identity as a clinician. And for a lot of you who feel like a lack of confidence around certain things, I think there's room for growth and becoming more confident in certain areas. But I think it would serve you so much better to focus your energy on becoming really great at maybe one, two, or even as many as three things that are in the mental health space. But here's why I'm super opposed to not niching down. There's almost 300 diagnoses in the DSM. And when you think about the different demographics and psychographics and socioeconomic background and family dynamics and all these different things that can play into this, we're talking about thousands and thousands of potential niches, right? If you don't identify one, two, or maybe three niches that you're going to really focus your attention on, what is the likelihood that you're going to really be ethically and effectively and completely trained to support thousands of people? It's probably not really likely. Now, like with thousands of people within a particular category, maybe, but are you going to really be able to know what's best practice for all of those diagnoses? Are you going to really be able to know what are the most likely to be effective modalities for all of those diagnoses? Not likely. So when you're providing this generalized approach to mental health care, I think at the very least, you have to make sure that you are really clear about when it crosses beyond the scope of your practice and have a robust referral network. As we're thinking about what it's like to start, grow, or scale your private practice in 2025 and 2026, part of what you have to acknowledge, right, because it is the reality, is that we have tech-based mental health apps who have partnered with insurance companies and are spending thousands of dollars to squeeze the small independent private practice out of business. They are becoming the new generalist, right? And so if you are looking to compete with them, you're going to have a harder time. If you niche down, it's going to make it easier for your dream clients to see you and to seek you out. And again, this is not unethical, right? When we're talking about niching, it's helping you to stand out in a crowded market, which is arguably a good thing so that people get good health care. As a practice that's been around for over 15 years, I can absolutely tell you that we have had more than a few clients who come to our doors attempting therapy again after having been with a therapist or with a provider that really was not skilled in providing care for them, who couldn't meet their needs, and who maybe even didn't refer them elsewhere, and they chose to kind of exit the relationship on their own. It is so much more unethical to provide care to people who you're not qualified to provide care for than it ever could be to potentially exclude someone who needs your care. But a big piece that a lot of people really weren't thinking about is this burnout conversation. Because a lot of times we think that burnout and compassion fatigue and just kind of like overwhelm and depletion is because you're doing too much work. But I would argue that a lot of times it's not that we're doing too much work, it's that we're doing too much work in different directions. So I'm trying to figure out how to help my 5-year-old client and my 62-year-old client and my 12-year-old client and my 22-year-old client, who all have different diagnoses, different ages and stages of development. I'm trying to keep up on their treatment plans and find engaging activities to do as a part of the session. If I'm trying to do all of that, of course I would feel overwhelmed, right? So the quality of my life isn't as good. The quality of my experience as being a clinician in private practice isn't as good if I'm working on the same 1 to 3 common diagnoses or the same kind of age group or the same psychographics or demographics. It would become that much easier for me to be prepared. And so I'm not having to duplicate the work. I'm just using the same work repeatedly. Now, what was nice is that in the group, there was quite a few people who told me that they have absolutely seen the light in this area and they've started doing it on their own or they're considering it right now. And some people have said that they've even seen increases in like referrals and income and a streamlining of the complicated systems in their business because now they have less work to do and are still generating great revenue. So if you are interested in niching down, either because you think it will help you in your marketing and to attract the perfect kind of clients that you really want to work with, or because you really believe that it will help you with your confidence to provide better care to your clients, or because you just want to protect your license and not get into that slippery slope of scope creep, getting outside of the zone of your genius, let's talk about how you can start niching down right now. First thing I want you to do is stand in your clinician identity, right? So not only are you licensed in whatever area of specialty you're licensed in, you as an individual, as a person, your race, your gender, your socioeconomic status, your cultural identity, all of those things are a part of who you are. And I firmly believe that they should all walk in the room with you when you go to serve your clients, right? So I want you to be clear about what parts of your identity you are comfortable sharing, what parts of your identity you want to lean into maybe with the clients that you serve, what you'd rather keep protected, right? And you get to decide those things But also your license is going to help dictate what you should and shouldn't be doing as well. So once you get clear about who you are, and then who you help comes next. Now, who you help is your identifiable niche, right? And so this might be the particular demographics in terms of their age and gender and all of those, and race and things like that you really want to focus on. But it also should be about diagnoses. And again, that takes us back to that whole point of you want to be well versed and experienced and knowledgeable about what helps people heal and have progress in these diagnoses. So you should be looking at research data, right? You should be looking at trends. You should be staying abreast of who is the experts and the authors that are writing about this particular area. So choose your niche based on the things that you are both interested in, the clients that you've really enjoyed working with. If you had some clients that you really loved working with, that's probably a good place to start as you kind of decide to niche it down. But you can also look at the clients you didn't enjoy working with. So there might be something about those clients that really you either don't feel comfortable with or don't feel experienced with. And there is room for you growing professionally, but I don't want you to feel like that's your only role, right? Like you can grow, again, in depth and not width. And so you can decide that. So getting clear about who you help in terms of their identity, how they self-identify as well, is a really great place to go next. And then finally, I want you to think about how. And this is where we get into things like modalities, techniques, frameworks. And what I really would love to see more people doing is sketching out their own frameworks, where if you're blending 2 or 3 different modalities, which in some instances is really appropriate, sketch out your own framework and apply it to those clients that you're working with. Some people mentioned in the group that they would be bored by working with the same type of client over and over and over again. But even if you're working with similar clients who have similar diagnoses, the truth is no 2 people have the same exact experience. So there's going to be nuances there. But you want to just kind of look at, here is kind of the toolbox that I have that I routinely pull from. A lot of our clients are looking for somebody who is a specialist. They are looking for somebody who can give them lots of help. We've seen lots of people who have gotten just enough help from TikTok, and they're well versed in personal help and self-help and things like that. So they're looking for somebody who can go beyond what they can get in a textbook or what they can get beyond in a self-help book. So what are those techniques that you're going to reach to and lean to give your clients the best possible outcome? As you're thinking about those 3 things, who you are, who you help, and how you help, you're identifying a niche. And your niche doesn't have to be some perfectly crafted 2-line statement. It can be, but it doesn't have to be to start with. You just are working towards the process of identifying who is the best person for you to help the way you are. And the other point that did come up a couple times in the post is that sometimes your needs can pivot or change. There's somebody who started out working with a lot of kids, but she's like, after I had kids, I no longer had the bandwidth to work with kids. I needed to be able to get away from kids to be able to really enjoy my work. I think that can work too, right? And sometimes we forget that your job is supposed to be something that you enjoy, that fulfills you and gives you, life satisfaction. And if it's something that you dread going to, I don't know if you've ever been in that position where you look at your calendar and you're like, oh God, I don't want to see her this week, where you're just dreading seeing the client because there's just a mismatch for some reason. It doesn't have to be that way, right? But a lot of people were really resistant to this, like I said, because they were concerned about what it could mean in terms of mandates and rules for practice. And I don't know that I would recommend going that far, but I also think that we are in a space where as people become more litigious and people have harm that they experience as more people are seeking treatment, you not having those extra credentials or that extra expertise and maybe possibly operating outside of your scope, you put yourself at more risk for liability that way too. So I think there's lots of good reasons for why you should niche down. I do understand the counter perspective but I still agree with my initial statement. And if you agree with this, and this is something that you're working on or are at least considering it, and you'd like an extra set of eyes and ears to kind of help you with that process, I'd love to invite you to check out a strategy session with me. These are a great way for us to kind of get a taste of working together to see if we are a good fit, right? My specialty niche of working with private practice owners who are looking to start, grow, or scale their life first private practice without overwhelm means that I work with a lot of different types of people. But I really love working with people who are in that sweet spot of somewhere between 0 and 5 years in private practice, a lot of whom who have been working their private practice in a part-time basis, maybe working other outside jobs to try and, fill in the gaps financially. But I really like to help them get their practice up and running in an organic way that really serves the work that you want to do. So if that is something that you're interested in doing, please make sure that you check out my link below for the strategy session and get down in those comments and tell me, do you agree? Should you be niching down? Have you already done it? Do you love it? Do you hate it? Tell me all about it in the comments because I want to hear.